Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 156 of Pro NoCoders Office Hours. I'm your host, Tonya. I'm here with members Thomas and Ben and my Kim and our guest, Henry. We're going to start in a moment, but if this is your first time tuning into Office Hours, I want to tell you a little bit about it. We do this every day of the week, Monday through Friday, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And what it is we invite members of Pro NoCoders, which you can go and sign up at pronocoders.com. We invite them onto our Zoom, and we broadcast that live, and they can ask us any question that they want and about Bubble, and we will try to answer it. We can't promise all of the answers because we don't have all of them, but we can promise you won't suffer with your Bubble questions alone. And we do a really good job of getting those questions answered. So we're going to get started here in just a second. But if you would like to join us for office hours, you can go ahead and sign up at pronocoders.com and then come into your members portal, office hours, click one of these tiles, whichever one fits your schedule best when it's time, and you'll be brought to our Zoom and we can introduce ourselves, and your first session is free. Awesome. Thomas, do you have anything for us this evening?
I do not.
No. How about Ben? Do you have anything?
Yep.
Awesome. Let's get started.
Okay, cool. So, quick one. This should be a nice, easy one. A quick win.
Yay! I love those.
So I'm doing what you suggested and stacking, as you can see, like groups on top of each other, and then like show and hide with these ones. But what I'm finding is when I go to the settings, and then, you know, this is where it's set up. So there'll be one there. So I'll set an opening state. But if I go to one kind of brand and then go over here and select another one, they're stacking, whereas I only want it to show whatever the latest selection is. Is that possible?
Yes, that's possible. Let's see here. So you're just using, how are you showing it on the selection? Do you have a do-when workflow?
Drop down, my profile brand value is not empty. This is visible. So when the drop down value isn't empty, it shows what it is and then sends the data.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I would do that a little bit differently. I would probably use URL parameters.
No.
No, is it because you're scared of them?
Yeah.
Okay, can I make you not scared of them?
Please. Yeah. No, I'm all in on custom states and terrified of URL parameters.
You are going to love URL parameters. You are. It's okay. You will. All right. So URL parameters, you know what they are. They're just the key value pairs separated by the ampersand symbol up in the URL tab. So you can see right now you have one called tab, right? Because tab equals, and then it says what the tab is. And that's just for your editor, right? So the same thing can be used in your app, and you can control that through your workflows. So when you are in this section, when you navigate to this section, you said you wanted to have a default thing showing, right?
Correct.
And what would you call this? What's this repeating group of?
Was not a repeating group.
Okay, what is showing there then?
It's a brand. Is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this is my profile's brands. That's not in a repeating group?
No.
How do you know how many to have?
What do you mean? How many to have?
So
this is a group.
So when you had like two of them showing at the same time, they're actually like two separate groups drawn on the page?
Yeah.
Okay.
And stacked, see?
And stacked.
And
okay.
Then
is
I've
every
got, different conditionals saying which one should be showing.
Got it. Okay. So they're not the same though. Those are different things.
They're all different.
Okay. So one's brand name, the other's talent name.
The other's event name. So that corresponds to this search, which would be the current user's brand list in a drop down. And then this is the current user's talent list in a drop down. And these will only be visible if, say, their brand has listings over 0, greater than 0.
Got it. And you're going to have all 3 of those drop downs visible at the same time?
Well, no, they'll only be visible if the current user has an option there.
Yeah, but if they have options can they have options for all 3?
Yes.
Okay. So if they had options for all 3, would all 3 be visible?
Yes, all these 3 would be visible. Yes, correct.
Okay. And then if I have something selected in one and then I select something in the other, do you want to erase the first one out and clear it out and not show it?
Correct.
I don't think that's the most elegant solution. I think we're going to find a more elegant solution for you.
Okay.
So I think instead, so is a brand something separate in your database?
Yes, they're all separate in the database.
They're all separate in the database.
Correct.
Okay. And then I think what we're going to do is make a satellite thing in your database that is connects to one of these things, right? So what I'm thinking here, I'll show you in the Sandbox app.
Please.
So here's what I'm thinking. So right now you have a brand thing, you have a talent thing, and you have an event thing, right? That's what I saw?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And then we're going to do this, we'll call this, we'll just call it satellite for now. I think that's what Juan has been calling them. So a satellite is going to have a brand field of type brand. It's going to have a talent field. I don't know if I did that. Of type talent. And it's going to have let me think through this here. Brand field name.
Events.
No, I'm thinking through what I'm trying to do. Because basically I'm thinking like what we're going to want to do is make it so you do that in a repeating group.
Right.
And then you filter the repeating group down based on what you're wanting to show. Because they all look very similar, right?
They all look similar, but they've all got very
but they all have different things on them, like different fields on them.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just see here. Event. So if I was trying to just work with what you were doing, what do I call it, tiles? Then I'm gonna have 3 groups. I probably should make this visible first. Hey, Adam.
Hi.
Okay, so I'll make this one red and this one blue. Now, the URL parameters that I'm talking about, if I make a button Actually, I don't need to make a button. I'll just use a drop down like you were doing. Okay. So let's see here. So drop down A static choices will be 1, 2, or 3. And then 1, 2, or 3. And same here. So the reason this isn't ideal is because you're going to have to clear everything out every time one of these is chosen. So it just makes it a little bit clunky. So what I was thinking of doing instead is making these groups, making this into a repeating group, and then showing all of the things, right, in the repeating group, and then filtering down to 1, right, based on the selection here. But the selection, you could filter not just by the selection, but you could filter by type. Right. So in terms of the URL parameters, which is a separate issue, what we can do is we can set the, hang on just a sec. Sorry, I had a knock on my door. So here on page load, we can navigate to this page, which is called tiles. And then we can send more parameters to the page. So whatever you want that default to be, right? So we can say drop down A, right? And then what we could do here is when get, this is how you do URL parameters. So this is setting the first URL parameter to drop down equals A. So this is the key and this is the value. And now I'm just going to make it match here. So this one is going to show when get data from page URL. So we're going to say drop down is A. Then we're going to make this visible on the page. And otherwise, it's not going to be visible.
So you essentially do conditional, with parameters, essentially do conditional instead of workflows as well.
Right, exactly. Because it's a lot to say, hide this and show that. Because now what I can do is when I want to hide this, I just change it to the value of the one that I want it to show. Yeah. So for this one, we'll just copy here and also paste it here. And like so. And now we can just go one by one and we can say, and change this to B. I could do copy and paste conditional formatting. I don't know why it seems easier to do it this way. Did I remember to hide it? No, I didn't. And then just copy conditional formatting, paste conditional formatting, then switch this to C. And Let me make sure I turn this one off. Okay, so I think that should work for showing just this one on preview. Yep. So you can do it this way. This is how you would have it set up currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So you could just hide and show them based on that. So I could make it, I could put a workflow on this one. So when group A is clicked, I can navigate to tiles. And I can make the drop down B instead. And then when I click on this one, I can change it. Okay. So if I want to switch, I can, oh, that didn't work. When group A is clicked, I'm supposed to destination tiles, send drop down to B. Oh, I know what's happening for this one. Only when get drop down is empty. It's not even the first time I dealt with that, right, Thomas? Today, that's not even the first time I dealt with that problem. So now when I click, it'll switch. And all that's changing is the parameter here. So when I click this one, it turns to B. And when I click this one, it turns to C. And when I click this one, it goes back to A.
Gotcha.
Is it still scary?
No, less scary.
It's a little different. It's different than thinking about custom states, right?
Yeah.
And it's also nicer because if I click here and then I refresh the page, if I was doing this with a custom state, it would go back to the default.
Yeah.
But because I did this with URL parameters, they're persistent when I click the refresh button.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go through the whole site and change it to parameters, I think.
Yeah, probably. Sorry about that.
Which I don't think will take that long.
Yeah, well, you know how to find like your custom states, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching and doesn't know about this very handy tool here, the app search tool, you can search for your custom states. So you can find all of them in your app with one click like that. It takes a little time, but it's worth it.
And then is there an easy way to change them to parameters or just go through and do it?
No, you just have to go through and do it.
Okay.
Yeah, there are reasons to use states as opposed to parameters, right? There are some times when it makes sense, but usually when you're hiding and showing things like big groups like that, or if you were filtering, if you were doing some filtering on the page, or if you're using filters across reusable elements, then parameters come in very handy.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Henry, is your mic working yet or not quite? Maybe not. Henry, are you here? Okay, that's fine. Adam, it's your turn.
I'm really interested in parameters. Basically, I tried to go in with Justin. I had a coaching session with him one-on-one. What I'm trying to do is instead of having people type in a code, I want it to be so that like they get an email, ideally through Postmark, and it's already set up with a URL parameter. And what he suggested is creating like a validation type of page. And what would happen is basically it would be the same URL, and then it would have the particular code. Like I'd still create a code and generate one, but then it would put that code at the end so that like it would basically verify like once this is clicked and this page is loaded, then that person, you can say that that person has access to that email address. Do you mind kind of expanding on what you just went over with parameters and kind of like just showing me how that would work, or just that setup?
Sure. Yep, no problem. I actually just did something kind of similar, but I'll just do it from scratch because it'll be easier.
Thank you.
Emails. Okay. So the trick here is that if the person is not logged in, you don't want them to have access to the emails of the users in your app, right? So
Well,
you're
in
actually
general,
going to...
Yeah, so this would be part of the onboarding process, and this would be pretty user specific. So they wouldn't necessarily have access to my users' email addresses anyway, you know?
Well, hang on, because the thing about it is just thinking through the security of it. If I arrive with a code or anything in the URL parameter, in order to flip the switch and say that the supposed user who was supposed to be verifying with that code exists, I'm going to have to search your database. But technically, the user's not logged in, which means that anyone who arrives to that page could technically would have to be able to search your database unless you kick the workflows to the back end. Okay. So that's one of the things I'm keeping in mind here as I'm working.
Okay.
So I'm going to create a button. I'm also going to create an input. Okay, so this will be an email input. And then this button will be magic link without magic. It's not Bubbles magic anyway, right? So the user will enter an email here and they're going to click this button. And then this is part of their onboarding. This is them signing up, or how is this working?
It's part of them signing up, and there will be other parts of my app that basically just ensure that someone has access to a particular email address. Because like someone could sign up with a spam email, but if they are trying to, use a different email address, I want to make sure that it's actually their email address.
Okay. And why? And you want to do this without using Bubbles magic link?
Yes, because magic link only goes to the user, like it only goes to their email address that they sign up with, right? So if you want to sign up with your spam email, I want to allow you to do that. You know what I mean? Not that we're going to spam you regardless, but I want someone to be able to do that and then be like, oh, I have to like verify that I have access to this email, because people might also have, for my use case, have access to multiple email addresses.
Okay, got it. So this is going to be a text field where they enter a code that they got in the email, and they're going to finish logging in, right?
Well, essentially what I was thinking was really just do the magic link thing exactly like, when you get any sort of like, okay, like verify this is actually like your relevant email, you just click the link and it just loads the page.
And it logs you in. Okay. That's what I thought we were doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. Okay. So they're going to enter an email here. They're going to click this link, and then they're going to go into this workflow, and the workflow is going to be, Brittany figured this out earlier today. We're going to create an account for another user. Create an account for someone else. I'm going to use input A as value. And then I forget why you said we're not going to use Bubble's magic link, but then we're going to send an email. And we'll send the email to...
So I don't necessarily need to create an account for them. I just need to verify they have access to that email address.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just going to send an email to input A's value. And then do you know how you're going to generate the code?
Just generate random string.
Okay. Why couldn't I find that? Is there something special I have to do? I know I've seen it before. How do you generate a random string?
So the way that you do it typically is you have a data type and you have a number on it, right? And then you have to create a thing of that data type in step one. And then in that area, you do the like the code equals generate random string, and that's where you do it. And then in step two, you send the email and you reference it.
I almost prefer current users, even though we're not logged in. Something I found out through testing earlier was current user always has a unique ID, even if they're not in the database. And then you could yeah. Would that work for this example?
Sure.
Okay. So current user's unique ID. So we're going to clear this. What we'll do is we'll use this URL. Then we'll have outside of this URL, like right next to this URL, we'll have the question mark, and we'll say code equals current user's unique ID. And then what we want to do is take that same thing. What thing is it going to be attached to? Is it going to be like a verification thing in your database?
Yep.
Okay. So here.
Basically, again, it's just making sure you have access to an email address. That's it.
Got it. Okay. So verification is going to have an email value. And it's going to have verification code. So our first workflow here is going to be to create one of those. And it's going to be current user's unique ID. Okay, and then the next thing is verification would be fine. It's going to be yes, no. And initially it's going to be set to no. And what we want to have happen is on page load.
Switch it to yes, right?
Right, but we're going to do that in the back end.
Why is it more beneficial to do in the back end?
Because you don't, it's just because if I'm in the front end, then I have to expose all of my verification things to searching. And I don't want to do that. I don't want somebody to arrive on that page and be able to manipulate the, you know how you can right click and inspect and you can see stuff in the console? Like somebody who knows what they're doing would have access to all of those email addresses of the verification things. So you don't want to do that. So what we're going to do instead is we'll create the API workflow here called verify. And we'll ignore the privacy rules when running the workflow.
Okay.
And here, we're just going to pass in the code text. And then in this step here, we'll go make changes to thing, and then do a search for verification, where the verification code equals code. First item, verified equals yes. And then what we can do on the front end, if we go back to, oh my gosh, what are they calling it? Verification, right? It's called a verification email from scratch. Yeah. So here, now I'm gonna trigger that, schedule that API workflow.
But I just want to confirm this isn't technically an API, correct?
Right, this is not, well, it's your API, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's your app's API.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Code. Okay, so now when on page load, I'm going to check for a code. And if the code exists here, then I'm going to schedule this. So when page, so only when get code is not empty, then it's going to schedule this workflow to run. And I'm going to click this button, ignore privacy rules when running the workflow. Right, so that's what's going to expose this to happen without exposing it, because this sends it to your backend, and the person who's on this page doesn't have access to anything in the backend. They only have browser, like client side stuff, right? So that's why we did that, was just to protect your data. Yeah. Okay.
That's amazing.
Okay, so now here, they're going to type their email here. They're going to click this link. It's going to create a new verification with the information. And then it's going to send an email to that email address. It's going, when they click the link, they're going to come back to the same page, but it's going to have a code on it. You could also show like a please wait or something when that's present. And then have that going until it says yes, that verification says yes, right?
Right. And it should be pretty instant, right?
It should be. Now I have to think, okay, so now that's happened. What do you want them to see or do after it's verified?
Probably just see like a success thing for like a second and like literally like 1,000 milliseconds, and then go to the like another page, which is probably going to be a home page, or depending on which part of the app they're doing this through, which there are multiple places to do this.
Okay.
So for example's sake, we could probably just do like if you have a home page or something.
Okay. So you want them to be moved to a different page when that's true, but they're not logged in. So what I did with Jordan a while ago was I made in verification. So you don't need to know their email address later, or do you?
You do.
You do need to know their, so it's like a user without a user.
So it's hard because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, I am kind of keeping it close to my chest, so I can't really talk too much.
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'm just thinking like through.
So it is a user who has their own. Think of it as somebody signed up with their spam email. They're trying to verify another email address that is not their spam email. That's what it is. Yeah,
but does your app have users, like regular users?
Yeah, of course. Yes.
But there are other ways of doing this, of verifying. Like even Bubble has a built-in functionality to verify the email address before it gives them access to your app.
And that is for their user email, correct?
Right. This is for a different email?
Yes, it is. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. But they're not logged in? when they're doing this, or they are?
They will be logged in. Yeah, at a certain point, they will be logged in doing this.
Is that always true or not? Sorry if I'm asking a lot of questions. It's hard to know, like.
I get it. I would say, I mean, 99% of the time that is true. Yes, the part of it, there is an onboarding portion that like asks this question, but they can skip. And I assume that they will do it from within the app after they've already finished the onboarding process, if that makes sense.
Okay. Well,
and technically, I mean, when you sign the user up, aren't they already logged in after you like go to the next step?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess then 100% of the time, yes, they will be logged in.
Okay. If that's the case, then send that there. Then we can, in the back end workflow, what we can do is on the user here, account, make changes to the current user, because they'll be logged in, so we'll know who this is. Then what we want to do is verified emails of type text, multiple entries, add results of step one's email. So once it's verified, right? Because we verified it here.
Yep, that makes sense. I do have this set up in the data type format. So yeah, like I do just want to know how the clicking the link verifies it, and I know how to do that that portion of it. Like I know where to store in a data type is what I mean.
So make changes. We won't do this. Make changes to user, and then because we don't have to verify it, the verification has served its purpose at this point. So we make the change, we add the verified email here, and then basically we're done with the verification. We should delete it. And then delete thing, results of step one. Because the verified email will be stored on the user.
Right, because you think it will slow down the database if we don't delete step one, correct?
No, you can have it. It's not necessary. You could do either. You could do the verification, yes, and save it, or you could delete it. I was just thinking
I think you're right. I think deleting it is definitely the move because it's a one-time use thing. Like you can only click it once, you know?
Yeah. I'm just thinking for when they click that link, they're probably already logged into the site, and then we still need to compare it. So maybe I've changed my mind. Hang on a second. So verified equals yes. And then here, we'll delete that. Then on the page, because you want to send them somewhere based on that. Here.
Yeah, and I mean, just for like example's sake, we can just send them to the index if you want at this point. I mean, not that that makes any sense because they're already logged in when they do this, but I know where I'll send them in my app is what I mean.
Okay, so do when condition is true, and the condition is going to be we can send the email in, not just that code. In fact, that's probably what we should do instead of using this like unique ID, we should send the code should be the email address instead. So you send them a link, the link has that email address in it, and then when they click it, they come back in here, and you could put a code too. So you could do both, right? So you could say, so let me read here. So the code would be current user's unique ID because they probably won't know what the hell that is.
Right.
And then you just do, and hang on. And email equals value here.
And it won't mess it up because an email typically has a .com, right? Because like you already have a ending URL. So
no, it won't.
Okay.
It should be fine. Yeah. We're gonna test it to find out. So we're gonna create the verification. It's gonna be the email. The verification code will be the unique ID. Verified is no. They're gonna click the link in the email here. They're gonna come back to the page. The page is going to recognize that the code is not empty, and it's going to schedule this API workflow, but we're going to do, which is fine, that's fine. Mm-hmm. We don't need to change anything about that. I think that's all working. Now what's gonna happen is when current users verified emails contains get data from parameter, get data from email, then we will navigate them to the home page. Does that make sense? So based on the backend workflow that we did, we've added that email to the current user's verified emails. Once that happens, then it will navigate them to the index page instead. Ready to test it out?
Yep, that's amazing. Thank you.
Okay, let's do it. Let's see here. So users, I will run. I was picking on my daughter for having stinky feet yesterday. So let's do. Yeah, so I just want to verify this for that other email. That should work. Nope. Where did it break? So let's go in here.
If it's too tough, and it's like too in depth, I don't want to take time from other people, and I don't mind like trying to work through it as well at another time.
Verified emails. So it didn't add it to there. On page, no, I think we're good. Let's see, we can check with Henry. Henry, is your mic working?
Hello. Hi, Tonya.
Hi, how are you?
Yep.
Do you have a question for us this evening?
Yeah, I'm just testing, simulating my first sample, but I'm trying to simulate the email approval process where you send an email to the approver and they have to choose whether it's approved or
Oh, that's right. Yep, I remember your question from the group. I just didn't recognize your name. Okay, yeah, we'll get to that in just a moment. So
sure.
Let me just try to debug this for a few more minutes because it should work. So yeah, so if we ignore the privacy rules when running the workflow, get code from the page, URL. Code. So let's go into our logs. Running workflow. Action condition failed. When get code, yeah, so that's true. But it should have run when it was. Oh, it only got one of them, it didn't get both. That's why it didn't work. So here. Code equals current user's unique ID. So let's just do current date and time instead. Let's try it again. Nope, that didn't work. That should work. Got rid of my code. Didn't like my code for some reason. Did you see it?
Not really. I did not know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's like.
You said it got rid of it, right? So it didn't complete it?
It didn't like my codes that I was sending through. I'm just going to send in a hard code here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so code equals.
I mean, in other use cases, it wouldn't be able to just be a hard code.
Right. No, you would have to do it dynamically. You'd have to figure out what it would accept instead.
This is a pretty big part of the app because it's also going to be the way that users can invite friends.
Right.
So yeah.
I mean, I don't think I have a workflow that's deleting it. The page is loaded. We schedule, we get the code and send it. When current users verified emails contains this, go to page index and this. Yeah, there's nothing that I'm doing that's telling it to delete that. So I don't know why it would be deleting it. It did it again. Maybe I have, so I have this right.
Is it the delete verification portion of it or?
No, no, it's because I deleted the delete. Very meta there. Page is loaded only when get code. Let's change it from get code to something else. Let's call it get UID. Empty. Page is loaded. Get UID. Verification code. Oh, that's what it is. Haha. So verification code verified. Send email.
What was the culprit?
It was I I hadn't changed. So when I created the verification, I hadn't made this equal to what I was doing here. I still don't know why it was deleting it, like from the URL parameter. That doesn't make any sense to me, but
Yeah.
So when they click this link, we'll create the new verification with the email and this hard-coded thing that you're going to make dynamic. And it's going to be verified no. Then we're going to send the email, which is going to send them back to this URL with the URL parameter UID equals 12345, and then their email that they put in. Then when they click that link on page load, since the UID won't be empty, it will schedule the API workflow verify to run at current date and time, ignoring the privacy rules. And this should be UID, get UID page from URL. Actually, it won't matter because the parameter doesn't matter, it's separate. So we'll send that in as the code. We'll go down to the workflows. So we'll send that code in by text. The code's going to be 12345 in this case. So we'll search for verifications where the verification code equals the code. If it's verified, if that's true, the first item, we'll say it's verified yes. Then we'll make changes to the current user to add the email to the verified emails. And then once that's done, back our page here, the current user's verified emails contains get email from page URL, that email, then it will navigate to the index page. Fingers crossed, here we go. Let's just make sure we're running as a user. Fifth time's charm. Do you ever growl at your bubble editor? Maybe it's just me. Nope, it didn't work. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I bet you it's happened again. I bet you the same thing happened again. Yeah, it keeps deleting that URL parameter.
That's all right. I'll get a little bit more in depth on it and do some research.
Yeah, if you can get that URL parameter to stick, then it should work.
Okay.
The other thing we could do is, hang on, I'm going to try one more thing because I think we were getting that URL parameter to stick before. Let me try one more thing. It's like, now I have to win, Bubble. I'm determined to win at this. So we're going to win at this.
I'm up for it. But I don't want to take time away from other people.
No, it should be fine. So let's just delete the email part of this out here. So UID equals 12345. And then we're going to send in this code here. So they click the magic link, we create the verification, we send the email, they click this button here. Let's go here. They get this URL parameter. So they click that, they come back to the page, and it's not empty, and it's going to run this API workflow. It's going to send the UID in as the code. Go to the backend workflows. Here. Change the verification to yes, make changes to user. We'll add the verified email. That's fine. And then that should still work. Do when current users verified emails contains get email from page. That was why I put the email in there. Current users, let's do one more step. Let's just try this. On the data type, on the user, let's add a list. Did you follow what I did?
Yes.
Okay. So now I'm working with one URL parameter, which seems to be sticking and hopefully will continue to stick. So we'll use the code. They get the code, they come to the page, we workflow out just the very email, but also the verification to a list of verifications, so that when the current user's verifications has that code in it, so verifications filtered where verification code equals that URL parameter, filtered. So if the count is greater than 0, which will happen once we add that verification, it's supposed to run just once to go to the index page. And I'm going to be so heartbroken when this doesn't work. Just gonna put it out there. Eli is probably watching and laughing. He's like, what are you doing? Bubble, come on, just work with me this one time. We've done this before. I did this with Jordan like 2 months ago. Oh. It's clearly, it doesn't like something about this workflow. It's not running this workflow.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll probably be up all night debugging it, and then I can tell you tomorrow.
I appreciate that. You really don't have to do all that, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
I will try. All right, Henry, for yours, it's very similar situation. So we'll just keep using this. You wanted when someone clicks a link in their email for something specific to happen on the page. Is that right?
Yeah. So they have to choose either accept or decline, and it goes back and save on the database.
Okay, and they are logged in when they're doing this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Not necessary, because they can be user, but they're not necessarily required to register. So that's why they have to approve via email instead.
So the person who's receiving the email is a user in your app, and they're
It can
clicking.
it can.
It can, or
Yes.
it could be both.
Yes, it could be both.
It could be both. Somebody who is a user and somebody who is not a user.
Yes.
And then you want them to be able to modify whatever database item it is, even if they're not a
On the
user.
approval, on the approval part, I'm not sure. No, they just have to respond on the email, and on the back end, it's going to be recorded, and there will be another process flow.
Like, what are, just tell me, what are they approving? Are they approving like an application, or what are they approving?
Mostly some requests, approval requests.
Okay, awesome.
Which only requires them to respond either approve or decline.
Okay, but what kind? Okay. Okay, so they have some kind of request they're looking at, and you want them to click a button that says approve, decline, or approve or decline, one or the other, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so if I send this email here, I can say this URL and here. So probably I'm sending, this is going to run into the same problem. I need to send multiple parameters because I need to send the thing that's being approved, and then I also need to send the approve thing. So thing equals, we'll just use the current user. ID, and then not here, it's and then approved. So this is what you're going to send if you want them to approve it. I won't go into like creating buttons and stuff. What I'll do instead is show you. I think we use BB code in this. We can also use rich text. Anybody know if it's, I think it's URL equals. And then here. And then URL equals. Where is oh? And page is loaded. We're going to make changes to the current user. Okay. Fingers crossed. Did I need the current user in there? Probably. So remember, I stored the thing in the URL parameters as the current user's unique ID. So close here, first item, status. So you're gonna have to think about privacy rules separately from this, Henry, but because you definitely would not want to have your user just exposed the way that my user is exposed right now when I delete these. But that was part of the hiccup that we ran into with Adam's case, was we were trying to avoid violating privacy rules and exposing our app to data breaches. So I have made the user exposed in this case. So whoever lands on that page can search through the users for users with that unique ID and ostensibly other users as well. But I'm just like putting a huge red flag warning to anybody watching. This is not what I like. This isn't a practice that I recommend. But for the sake of this part, let's preview. I guess it doesn't matter. So I can click the link to approve or the link to decline. So if I click approve, I arrive here and it says status approved, but it lost. That looks buggy to me. Nobody happens to be watching and knows this answer. Kim, are you watching the comments for me?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Do you have a keyword for me for Henry?
It's still URL parameters from email.
Oh, okay. Got it.
So this was the current user that I was running, and then status. Yeah, it doesn't take the status. There's something going on. Either I'm doing something wrong in constructing these, but it's question mark and then key value pair and key value pair and key value. Like there shouldn't be a problem with it having more than one URL parameters. So I will check on that and see what might be going on because that seems buggy to me. There's something wrong. But that's how you would set it up, Henry. Like you are going to need, I think, 2 URL parameters to get it to work because you're going to need to verify the user and also the status or whatever that thing is that you want to update. It may not be the user even. It might be a user's like application or something, right? Still with us, Henry? All right, we're gonna wrap up. Sandra, don't go anywhere. We're going to wrap up office hours for this evening. We're gonna move into our after hours section so we can handle more private matters or whatever else is on the members' mind. If you want to join the after hours session, please go sign up at pronocoders.com today. And yeah, you can join us tomorrow. We have another session at 10 a.m. Pacific time tomorrow, and we'll see you there. Thank you, everybody, for joining.